Funds of Australia, HCF, to share with us their success journey of the implementation HCF. We also have Kostas, our customer success manager, to speak a little bit more about the secret sauce, how MuleSoft engage and support all our new and existing customers. We will be starting off, next slide. We'll be starting off with a few of the key announcements while waiting for many more attendees to join in before diving into the speaker content today. I hope all of you stay until the end of the sessions as we have a final trivia contest, and we're going to give away many wonderful prizes like a MuleSoft certification voucher and many more marketing swags to the winner. Throughout the sessions, all audience line will be muted. Please feel free to use the Q&A link shared on the chat to post your questions. The presenter's slide and recording will be shared within 24 to 48 hours on the same events page that you registered for the events today. So without further ado, I'm handing over to Royston to start the announcement. Royston, to you.
Thank you very much, Eva. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone. Welcome from wherever you're joining from in the world today. I will be sharing some announcements in the MuleSoft space that are worth noting about. So get ready and pay attention. So the first one, for any of you who are Exchange users, which would be all of you, I wanted to announce that there are 2 new APIs that are available for Exchange. So this is the Exchange API version 2, as well as the new version of the Mule Maven facade. What are the benefits of this? It helps you with automating the publishing of data onto Exchange, as well as just having better quality assets on Exchange as well. Now, the good news is that there's no impact to existing setups. However, you do have the option of adopting these new features and new APIs if you're already using them in your CI/CD pipelines. So if it's something that you've configured in the past, worth checking if you're using it in the best way. And if you haven't done it till now, then worth checking out the release notes to see what it's capable of. Moving on to Runtime Fabric. So for those of you who are keeping on top of Runtime Fabric news, we have just launched support for Google Kubernetes Engine. So previously, Runtime Fabric was available to be deployed on a bare metal server, on virtual machines, on AWS EKS, or on AKS. But with the latest enhancement, we now have support for GKE as well. So that means that you've now effectively got multiple deployment options. And to be honest, probably all the options that you would want to be interested in. We've got Connect coming up. So if you've been living under the rock for the last couple of weeks, you would have missed the announcement that Connect is happening in May 2021. So it's a little over 5 weeks away. It's going to be a follow the sun model. And for the Australian and New Zealand audience, it's going to be at 9 a.m. on the 19th of May. So we'll be posting a registration link in the chat so you can register early. Now, the benefit of Connect this time around is you get to hear from some of our outstanding customers around the world, but we also get the opportunity to actually speak to experts and have in-person, well, not in-person networking, but live networking. So we revamped the platform compared to what we had last year. It's even better this year. So I highly encourage you to register, and registration is free as well. Now, this is a very timely reminder because the last day of submissions is today in Australia, and I think it's tomorrow for the rest of the world. We are doing customer awards for Connect this year, and submissions are open. So I'll be pasting a link to this in the chat as well. We recognize that there are some absolutely outstanding people and projects that happen in the MuleSoft space. And so we want to recognize these efforts. We're launching customer awards for the first time at this Connect. There will be some prizes, as you can see on screen. My ask of you is, if you are a customer or a partner who's working with the customer, look through the criteria, see if you are eligible and want to put your nomination in, and then we'll be going through the process over the next 5 weeks. All right, another one that's relevant to hopefully all of us. Most of us on this call are certified in one of these 3 certifications on screen. So that's a developer, platform architect, or integration architect. The MuleSoft training team has very kindly launched certification maintenance exams. And now that's because we recognize that every 2 years, the certifications do expire. But not everyone wants to have to put in the whole 2 hours worth of exam effort and the equivalent study. There is an easier, shorter way to maintain these certifications. And that's the certification maintenance exam. So you get 2 attempts to do this exam. It's a shorter proctored version, and it extends the validity of your exam by 2 years. Now, these are free for a limited time. So the link on screen is the one you need to go to. I will also paste that in the chat afterwards. But the important thing to consider here is that this offer and these exams are only available until the end of May. And so if you want to extend your validity of your certification, I highly encourage doing it before the end of May. Friends of Max. For people who have missed the Friends of Max series, these are short enablement videos, typically around 10 minutes each, that talk about different topics around the Anypoint platform or concepts around implementing MuleSoft. These are produced by a combination of people in our training team, our professional services team, and our customer success team. Now, we've launched some new videos in March that includes videos on chargeback models and securing API access. And then the ones on the right-hand side, they talk about the most popular videos that we've had in the last month. So I highly recommend you browse through the list of videos. And if there's any that you find interesting, you can share them with your team at work as well. Community meetups. So we know that you're aware of meetups because you're attending one right now. However, there are meetups that are happening all over the world. And in fact, there are more than 22 meetups happening in April alone. Now, the benefit of a lockdown and a pandemic has been that you can join meetups from anywhere in the world. And we have a number of people who are outside of Sydney, me included, who are joining today's meetup. So what I recommend is you definitely subscribe to the Sydney group, but you can also browse the list of upcoming meetups on the link on the slide and attend any that are of interest for you. A call out that if you do speak Spanish or Portuguese, there are now special language groups for these meetups. And if you are a female, we actually have a Women Who Mule session as well for all the women who are part of the MuleSoft ecosystem. So with that, my ask of you is that when you have finished today's meetup, in roughly 2 to 3 hours, you're going to receive a feedback survey. I please ask you to spend the 3 or 5 minutes it takes to fill out that survey. Share what you think of this meetup today. If you have any words of appreciation for Vincent, that's the best place to put it in because I can forward that on to him. And if you have any other feedback, comments, whether you'd like to speak or present or have some other role in the meetup space, you can contact the organizer on the event page, and we'll get back to you with our thoughts. So thank you for your patience hearing all of those announcements. We now have the opportunity to hear from Vincent. So Vincent, I'll stop sharing and I'll give you the permission to share on your side. And while you're sharing, I will briefly introduce you. So Vincent and I have had the pleasure of knowing each other for probably 2 years, if not more. And he's been a key MuleSoft stakeholder at HCF. Now, for those of you who are not aware of HCF, you'll find out soon what it is. But it's a iconic Australian brand that is, I think, the largest non-for-profit insurer in Australia. And they've gone through something quite transformational and amazing over the last few years. So I've been able to witness that journey firsthand, and I'm really happy that the rest of the community can hear about this story today as well. So Vincent, over to you.
Thank you, Royston, and thank you, Eva, as well. Hello, everyone. My name is Vincent Liu. I work for HCF as Integration Services Manager. I helped HCF establish the integration team and the integration practice. Besides my work, I'm passionate about the startup space. I founded or co-founded 2 startup initiatives. And best of all, my favorite job is being a father. This is my daughter, Olivia, and she just turned 5 this year. I've been with HCF for 5 years. 3 years ago, HCF started a digital transformation journey, a project called Phoenix, to provide customer 360 data for better and personalized services, and to ramp up and boost our digital experiences through mobile and website, and to replace a number of cumbersome legacy a cumbersome legacy system which only had point-to-point integrations. Fast forward, 3 years later, with Phoenix gone live in October 2020, we successfully introduced and connected 25 plus new systems and applications in HCF. Within integration area, we ramped up from less than 20 APIs in year 1 to 600 APIs in year 3. With 200 APIs phased out during the transition, we now have 400 APIs live in production. Currently, more than 85% of the custom traffic in HCF comes through the integration layer. We had 15 work streams that focused on each different technical area in the transformation project. At the end of the project, the total integration fixes occupied less than 2% of all the issues that have been reported. So overall, after 3 years, we have built a relatively robust integration practice that allowed us to succeed in the transformation journey and embrace the rapid change from the future. So today, with limited time, I would like to share 5 do's and don'ts in the journey of us working with MuleSoft to implement the enterprise integration practice. Having a clear mission and a set of goals is number 1. Set the mission beyond the projects and build goals that focus on the long-lasting assets of the company instead of the projects. In HCF, we have built the following goals for our integration team: functionality, reliability, reusability, and supportability. These goals should be understood and resonated by every single integration team member, including manager, architects, dev leads, developers, and testers. The first goal is to make sure we meet the business requirements and provide improvement of the customer experiences by delivering the right functionalities. We make sure it just works. Functionality normally is captured in the functional requirement and delivered by the projects. This goal had the focus of the project, so it's actually the easy part in comparing to others. The next 3 goals are often underrated and sometimes can be missing during the project lifecycle. However, in our opinion, they're most important for a quality integration implementation. When it works, we want to make sure it always works. There are a number of layers for reliability. The top layer, application. In HCF, we worked with MuleSoft and introduced Runtime Fabric, which is RTF. As most of you are aware, RTF is a Kubernetes-based cluster. Each application is running within its own container. Each instance of the application is called a replica. In HCF production, we have at least 2 RTF replicas for each MuleSoft application. This not only provides the performance, but also the high availability on the application level. The second layer, runtime environment, which in our case, we moved from Cloud Hub and Naked Mule to RTF. We have built a N+1 redundancy for the workers in the RTF environment. The MuleSoft RTF is a flexible technology that allows us to scale horizontally. We're planning to enhance our platform redundancy to N+2 or N+3 this year. Here, we definitely recommend you to speak with your vendor to understand the best HA options for your situation. The third layer, host and VMs. They're normally supported by the virtual infrastructure. The fourth layer, data center and cloud. HCF has a fair amount of on-prem applications. So we use hybrid architecture with 40% of Mule APIs in AWS cloud and 60% of Mule APIs in on-prem data center. We make sure our AWS deployment is across 2 AWS availability zones and on-prem deployment across 2 different data centers. And obviously the last layer is a network, which has standard alternative routes in most companies. The next goal after when it always works, we want to make sure it always works better, faster, and cheaper. We're talking about the development effort, time to market. The core of all these is reusability. Reusability is not only referring to the APIs or applications, but also the integration patterns, process, procedures, and even the human behaviors. And we have discovered the key to ensure reusability is to have strong integration governance to facilitate the process and design first approach adopted by the whole team. I'm going to dive deeper to the governance and design piece a bit later in today's session. The last goal is supportability. For most of the projects, this is probably the last priority or commonly forgotten one. But to us, it's one of the most important. First, you're going to ask yourself these questions. How do we know if there's an issue? When there's an issue, who will be dealing with them? In what kind of scenario who will be doing what and how? And what is a support SLA and RTO? What does the monitoring look like? These questions will pretty much define everything. From the coding perspective, it defines a logging framework and exception handling framework. From the management perspective, it defines your support operating model and escalation and troubleshooting procedures. And from the visibility perspective, it defines how you build your monitoring dashboard, construct the meaningful reports, and getting the right alerts. Once you have answered all these questions, you need to go to another level to look at holistically the technology stack and stakeholders, i.e. the people you will interact with. The easy way is to start with APIs and the consumers, then applications, RTF, and the integration support, then OS, VM, network with infrastructure support, and all other end systems with your service providers. In HCF, we have built a single dashboard that shows all the status that I mentioned above in the technology stack. We have another dashboard that shows the affected business area when something goes wrong. This has allowed us to discover the issue when even before they got reported to the service desk. The strong supportability that we have has significantly reduced the troubleshooting time and minimized the business interruption for HCF. So next, I'm going to dive a bit deeper into the governance piece. As promised, I will also talk about the process that we built to ensure the reusability and the quality of the design. But first, integration governance covers many different areas. Due to the time we have today, I only extracted a few of what we have done in the past few years, and I hope they're valuable to today's audience. The first question we get are always to do with the technology suitability check. For example, a MuleSoft integration should be considered. I'm sure we get all these questions like, can we use MuleSoft for ETL process or orchestration of some files? Well, it's wise to build a fact sheet to tell people it is not a good idea to use microwave as a washing machine. And that's pretty much normally how we say it. And then the question like, what integration APIs can be used and how much integration development effort is required? We have built an integration effort estimator, essentially a list of questions to go through. Once you have all the answers, you will naturally be able to tell the effort required to have that API ready. But the point is not only about the effort estimation. It is to highlight the gaps in the functional and non-functional requirements for your customers or stakeholders. How many times people come to us and say, well, we kind of know the use case, but we don't know the actual details. And we have no idea about the volume, and we know nothing about the security requirement. But just give us a ballpark on how much time you need to get this API ready. Well, I hope these process and tools will help you facilitate this type of conversation. At a period of time, we had 5 different work streams, all delivering the integration APIs. Coordination of deployment from each project was a nightmare. You have your API running in the SIT environment being tested, and suddenly it got restarted because of the deployment from another project. And you have your feature waiting on testing sign-off, and the application has to be changed by another team. So our solution is to make integration a shared resource and have a dedicated integration release, daily, weekly, or fortnightly. When we were at the peak time of the project delivery, we had total 7 teams from the implementation partner, MuleSoft, and internal. There are different ways how people communicate, document, and track the activities. And at the early stage, the differences caused a lot of issues for us. We had developers complaining about the changes made to the solution when the code was halfway done. Then architects said, well, the business requirement is different now. And they had to make changes to the design. To resolve this, we define a complete integration work process to enforce the ownership and sign off for every step. Now, let's talk about the process we built to ensure the reusability and design quality. We have two forums, one called Integration Working Group and the other called Integration Design Review Board. The Integration Working Group is per Scrum team, and I have the architect that is assigned to the Scrum team to chair the working group meeting once a week. The goal is to focus on the functionality of the solution, making sure the solution delivers the scope of that particular project. The Integration Design Review Board runs every 2 weeks. I personally chair it, and I ask all architects to present the solution to the forum. The goal is to focus on the reusability, alignment of the individual integration solutions, and the cohesive integration roadmap. With this process, we have a joint forum to ensure the delivery of each project and the focus on the interest of HCF, which is to produce long-lasting reusable assets. After having a clear mission, strong governance, the key to make it successful comes down to people. A period of time, we were working with 5 integration partners, plus our internal resources and the ones directly from MuleSoft. We have teams in Sydney, Melbourne, Perth, and overseas. Yes, we come from different companies and different technical background, but we make sure we all feel home when we work together. We don't differentiate who is from which company. We all gel together to work as one team. The key is really to have people understand it is not a project or a job. It is an opportunity for our personal growth. For example, we give out many tasks in a way asking for volunteers. And we have developers working on the design and directly talking to the business representatives to understand the requirement. And we give the ownership and sense of credibility to the people, not only on the APIs they design or build, but also on all the documentations, technical specs. They have their signature there forever. Anyone who comes after and continue to work on that API will see how good the work was done previously. To facilitate all this, giving the visibility to the team will provide great value. Everyone will know what they work on and any dependencies on others. And where we are at with all the changes, we spend a lot of time building the right Jira workflow and define our change tracking system. So before we go on, maybe Eva or Royston, do we need to take any break?
I'm just checking. Our audience is very quiet today. So we have a very shy and quiet audience. So I don't pick up any question for the audience, but I do encourage you, all of you on the line, please continue posting your questions and please stay until the end because we do have a pre-trivia and prizes given away. So since no one is asking question, I'll take the lead to ask Vincent some questions just to get a pause. I'm keen to find out a little bit more. Vincent, I know that the HCF have worked with many of our partners. How did you deal with that? Because, you know, we are not talking about just 1, 2, 3, or 5. You can share a bit more insight with yours.
Absolutely. Look, I think that, working with multiple partners and working with multiple teams, that is actually one of our biggest challenges that we had in last 3 years.
Yeah.
Especially when you see multiple teams working for different projects or different work streams. Each project have their own timelines, and under pressure, people start to build silo solutions. For example, if we need to build a service to get, member profile details, I'm just using an example that we had here. We used to have, 5 API endpoints in the process layer doing the similar things. To be honest, this is really not helping us in the long run. That is when we brought up the governance piece to ensure we focus on the reusability of the APIs. We managed to, consolidate 5 APIs to 2. So the challenge is really when you have multiple projects or work streams and how you make sense in enforcing reusability. And especially to align people with different background from different vendor, to make sure they understand they're on the same page. The solution from us is really to have the strong integration governance that focus on the interest of the company, not the project.
Thank you. Thanks. So where are we from? Do you want to continue with the don'ts? Oh, I have one question got picked up. What someone is asking, how big is your integration review board? Who is part of the board? Is the entire integration team or only the designer architects?
Yeah, okay, that's a good question. So we have two forums. One is working group. Working group is running within the actual Scrum team, where we have the lead architect, then we have the service designers, then we have the developers, all in a working group meeting once every week. And when they finalize the solution, they're going to present to the review board. In the review board, it's just going to be myself and the different integration architects from different work streams. And obviously, we might include some like other security architect or application architect from other areas to make sure we cover different areas. So the actual review board meeting, the size of that is not too big. It only includes all the architects in there. It doesn't have the designers or developers.
Right. Thanks. No worries. I hope I answered the questions for the anonymous who just posted the previous questions, but keep the questions coming. Let's continue. Let's finish off the second part of the presentations, and then we can really take more questions in the fireside chat sessions.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Thank you, Eva. So now let's talk about what we shouldn't be doing. Not only I wanted to highlight this is so common, that is due to the pressure of the project delivery that we don't have time for proper solution design. But also I wanted to highlight in a lot of scenarios, we all mixed up the role and gave up the obligation for solution design. We all have seen people come directly to our developers and say, hey, can you tell us how to resolve this issue only and build a solution for us in the next few days? We also have some business users raised a Jira ticket entitled, this integration API requires XYZ changes. And how many of you get frustrated by this? To be honest, please tell us what you want and we will work out how we are going to do it. Never mix the requirement and the solution. So having a proper solution design is our obligation. Never give up on that. The benefit that we have seen in our case, at the start of the project, we spend 80% of our time on design and 20% on build and validation. The integration pattern that we have defined at the early stage have been reused throughout the whole project in the next 3 years. So it is definitely worthwhile to build the foundation, not only the reusable design patterns, but also the right mindset and the way how communication can be formulated. And lastly, I wanted to call out, through our transformation project, we worked very closely with MuleSoft, especially at the beginning part. We had a number of MuleSoft architects working with us. Our 90% of integration application architecture and 100% integration platform architecture have direct involvement from MuleSoft. So I absolutely recommend you to talk to your vendor and to make sure you get the best solution out of it. And the second lesson we learned, and the things we shouldn't be doing, is to neglect or underrate the importance of documentations. Many of us think we build our APIs and we just wash our hands and walk away. That is not the case with us now. Our integration team delivers the asset, not just APIs, the assets including the running applications and all the associated documentations and procedures. Here are some examples of our assets. We had a big number of integration team members, and people come and go at different stages of the project. Our expectation is when a new resource is onboarded, he or she will go through our documentations, and with very minimal guidance and handover, we'll be able to work on the next task. So don't just build, document. So to summarize today's session, the key takeaway for implementing a successful MuleSoft enterprise integration practice: set a clear mission that focuses on producing long-lasting assets for the company. Build a strong integration governance for alignment of the development and quality of the delivery, and promote an inclusive, open, and accountable team culture. And last, have the right leverage of your vendor engagement. So there's so much details we can dive into. Due to the time we have today, I can only share some of our experiences and lessons that we learned to all of you. So if you do have questions, then I'm happy to share my thoughts. You can connect me on LinkedIn and send me a message there. And also our team is expanding. If you're interested in knowing anything about our team and the opportunities, feel free to talk to me. So I hope today's sessions have been valuable. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Vincent. If you don't mind, can you move back to the key takeaway slides? I'm just trying to extend a little bit on the MuleSoft engagements part, and I would like to invite Kostas to give a bit more of an insight, since he's from the customer success team, and he'd like to share a couple of the secret sauce, how exactly working with customer success for all our customers. Kostas, to you.
Thank you, Eva. Hi, everyone, and massive thank you to Vincent for really taking time to share HCF's achievements, his team's achievements, but also his own personal achievements, because, kudos to you, mate. You've done a great job. But also thank you for recognizing us, MuleSoft, as a partner throughout your transformation journey. Look, from a customer success perspective, what we really do is we collaborate actively with HCF, as we do with all our customers, and all we're trying to achieve is make sure they enable greater value from the use and investment of the Anypoint platform. And secret sauce or not, I mean, what we do in that kind of actively ensuring is we make sure we've got joint success plans, that we kind of keep each other kind of motivated and honest to what we try to achieve and when. We've got regular meeting cadence to checkpoint, but we also have periodic exec level alignment sessions with the customer's executives and with our executives as well. I just want to touch on a couple of things from Vincent's presentation or story, because what a lot of you might not know is I've only been with MuleSoft for just under 2 months, and I've come from being a customer of MuleSoft for the last 3 years, but I've also got a long enterprise architecture background with a lot of focus and passion and integration. So I know the space and I know the things quite well. And I've also been a customer of HCF for many, many years. And I can actually tell you that I've seen that transformation and the experience changing for the last couple of years. So I'll dive in because I know we've got questions waiting. I want to touch on reuse, because reuse is one of the things that drives quicker outcomes for the business, and it's proven to lower the technology maintenance effort and cost. HCF are clearly set up for this. Vincent has spoken about treating APIs as long-lasting assets. And if you want to drive this even further, you can start thinking about or recognizing APIs as products and product features. And that gives you the ability to enter new ventures, explore new business models with your partners, and even think about monetization if that's part of your strategy. API code that runs on a tech platform is actually business functions, and they're definitely not connecting system A to system B kind of one-off integrations. And as part of driving to that reuse, governance is important. Vincent spoke about this again, and I tell you from our previous life and experience, I've done a great job in putting those review forums together. And governance is often thought to as in a hated way, that it's here to slow projects and people down, but it's actually an enabler. And in HCF's case, it's the way people and teams come together to identify and achieve reuse, and also to look at onto performance and reliability. We find, and obviously my previous experience, customers struggle to establish a governance practice. So if you want to help, or if you're a new customer, they're looking at MuleSoft as your iPaaS. MuleSoft has developed a framework or methodology called Catalyst, and it's not something that we invented. We actually work with over 1,000 or 1,500 customers to learn from their experience, success, and failures, and put that together to help back all our customer base. All it is, well, it's actually a lot, but really to summarize it, it's 6 playbooks. 3 of those playbooks are really focused on organization and team enablement. Governance is a key part of that. So we're happy to reach out to you if you've got questions, if you want to know more after the session through the comments and the Q&A. Last thing before we look at questions, reliability. And yes, COVID's got something to do with it, but in your journey about designing and refactoring APIs, think about those exceptional circumstances, not just COVID, as I said, but don't overlook that. It's really important. Your company, you're doing this because your company has to transform and grow and reach new customers. So build for growth, think for growth. And the other thing that drives kind of those exceptional circumstances is often legislative changes, especially in the fins, insurance, banking area. So make sure you get ready at some point for your APIs, for your websites, to get a lot of traffic and a lot of volume. I'm going to leave it at this. The rest over to you guys for questions. Thank you for listening, and thanks again, Vincent.
Yeah, thank you so much. I would like to share my screen, but I can't do that. Vincent, can you stop sharing? I'm just going to post all the questions up there because we are really having a lot of questions coming in, especially attended to yourself, Vincent. Can you see all my screen now?
Yeah.
Yep. So this is the Q&A. We do have the first questions answered already. I'm hoping that whatever. Oops, sorry. Yeah. No, this is the second question. This the first question is probably gone. Someone asked and posted with regards to single dashboard to show different logs and issues. Do you have any content on that? Otherwise, I'll move on to the next one.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm definitely, very happy to help on this. In one of the slides I probably mentioned about the supportability, which we basically decouple the supportability in different areas. If you look at from the technology stack perspective, we actually build multiple layers. The top layer is a Mule API. The second layer is a Mule application. The third layer is the actual RTF environment, or in your case, it could be your runtime. And the fourth layer is OS level, and the fifth layer is a VM, and the next layer is a network. And apart from all these, we have a separate one which we have the monitoring for other end systems. For example, the service providers, from different areas. So if you have the visibility on all these different layers, then roughly you have a very comprehensive view in terms of what your integration platform and APIs look like.
All right, let's move on. So someone asked about this. Swan asked about what is the biggest takeaways from some of these awesome projects?
Yeah, look, I think that there's no single sort of magic words. I would say it's going to be the combination of having the right goals and having the right people in the team, and also have a strong governance. Obviously, definitely work with MuleSoft, making sure you have the right engagement from the start to the end. So I would say the 4 components are the key takeaways today.
Yeah, thanks. So this question is the one that I've posted, so we have already got that answer. So whoever that posted this question, if you have more, you'd like to know more, please feel free to post it to Vincent. Let's move on to the next one. 600 API, large number.
No, they are not across different countries. Maybe one day when HCF is that bigger than we have APIs in other countries, but for now we don't. Yes, so it is a fairly large sort of API catalog, and yes. So one thing, just to answer the question, we do have a few ways to manage that catalog. One is obviously for the audiences like developers, we use Exchange, and Exchange. People can come to Exchange and find the details, and they can even use the mocking service. And secondly, for audiences like a business analyst and for some product owners, and we have a separate way. We actually build our individual catalog. We actually in the process of looking at different tools and how and even we work with MuleSoft and see how we can optimize that customer experience. But currently we actually use, like a spreadsheet, like a database to actually manage all the different interfaces. The key for your catalog is really to manage the relationships. So what you wanted to do, you wanted to make sure that you have the audience who is consuming the API and the application, the API and your application and your deployment. So once you manage that relationship, it's going to be a lot easier for you to actually dive into the catalog. The other relationship you wanted to manage is making sure that we are all technical teams, and we kind of fall into the default habit that we all speak, yes, I give you the API, which is / member management and blah blah blah, give you a endpoint, but that is not the language that used by the business. So one tip I feel like I can share is you wanted to manage the business process name and your API. So when you talk to the businesses, they don't really need to know your API. They just need to know, okay, do you have something? Do you have a service that can get member details for me? Or do you have a service that can update member policies? So you build that relationship, then you have a very good sort of baseline for your catalog.
Yeah. Okay, let's move on. Well, due to the time constraint, I'm sorry, folks, I can only pick really the strategic, interesting questions. So let's move on. If anything that's balanced, outstanding that you can't really answer, I believe that you can actually get it done offline. So let's go with the last 3 questions. So Vincent, would you have any ideas about your integration patterns?
Yeah, look, if you look at the existing integration patterns, there are actually aren't that many. In our case, the most common one is data distribution. We basically synchronize the data or distribute the data from one system to another or to multiple other systems. So this particular pattern that we spend a lot of time, like we had multiple MuleSoft architects and working with us, and we're trying to validate and finalize this pattern. So this is the most common pattern used in our organization, but obviously like a PubSub and other patterns really depends on your situation. But if you look at the available patterns, they aren't that many. It really comes to how you embed that in your own scenario, whether you use MQ, whether you wanted to do that in the real time. So it really depends on a lot of factors in your own organization.
Yeah, thanks, Vincent, for sharing that. So another one that is also pretty much specific to HCF, I'll pick a lot of the question that is very specific to your organizations.
Yeah, look, all our APIs, the standard is using RESTful interfaces. So before we start the project, we spent a lot of time, and we actually built like a menu for all our developers to follow as HCF flavor to how to build the RESTful services. Because as you know, the RESTful services implementation can have so many different variations. And if you look at the RESTful services from Google, from Facebook, from YouTube, they're all different. So we actually spent a bit of time and consolidated and built our we call it guidelines and best practice to build HCF RESTful services. So I believe have a bit of time to consolidate and have that sort of sort through process is very valuable. It's very valuable before you start any project.
Thank you. All right. Second last questions. I picked something with regards to C4E, and I'm thinking that probably Kostas also have something to share. So, Vincent,
absolutely.
You're first.
This is very critical for us, to be honest. If we look at the next step for us, we have, in the last 3 years, we have, leveraged one of the biggest projects in HCF to build a good foundation, but we still have a lot to do. One of the areas that we need to focus on is really from the culture perspective, that we need to further promote the product mindset over the project mindset. And secondly, we need to look at how to convert our role as integration team from doers to enablers. This is definitely something that MuleSoft is really good at, and this is something I definitely am going to work with Kostas and a few other folks on the C4E piece. So this is really critical for us.
Yeah. Kostas, you have anything to add before I jump into the very last questions? We had really not much time. Yeah.
Look, just very quickly, it's a journey. It's not something you turn on straight away. What I will say, though, given what Vincent has shared with us, is because of the discipline and the approach that HCF has taken with the design forums, the amount of training, the investment in the team and the certifications, all those things count towards making the transition to a C4E model a lot easier. But Vincent is spot on. A lot of that is kind of a mindset change. And that's what normally takes a little bit of time from our experience. But we've got the model, we've got the experience. We can't wait to start the journey with HCF.
Yeah. Okay. Last questions about reusability. Someone, actually, two persons asked these questions about reusability. The other one is how do you actually measure reusability? The second question with reusability is these questions. So I think we can address that all in one go.
Yeah. Look, reusability is a very interesting topic. You know, we have a bit of a momentum in terms of reusability, but to be honest, we haven't got to the place where we want it to be. You know, mainly because we have big number of system and experience APIs. Our process layer is still thin and flat, in our opinion. So over time, we'll be fattening the process layer, hence to ramp up further in the reusability area. So this is definitely something that you wanted to consider your own business, you know, processes, and just to dig out, you know, which part that you can actually build as a reusability layer. But if you look at the consumer, if you look at the service provider, yes or no reusability, the reusability level that we see is quite low. But if you look at the business layer, yes, definitely that's something that you can boost up.
Thanks. Thank you so much. Well, I only will miss one question. Someone asked about the difference between Cloud Hub and RTF. I think it's a very general question. Someone wants to know about the advantage between cost versus speed, deliverability, and flexibility. I think whoever that asked this question, feel free to work with your account managers and customer success managers. We probably won't have time for further discussions on that, and it's pretty much of a general topic in overall. So without further ado, so I'm thinking let's jump into our trivia. I want to reserve some time because folks on the line is definitely waiting to see who is going to be the winner today. Thank you so much, Vincent, for all the content that you presented today. And sorry about grilling you from our audience of all these questions. And I'm sure that many folks will continue pinging you on the LinkedIn. So all the recording and the presented deck will be sharing out within 24 to 48 hours after this event. So go back to your registration page. You'll be able to view if you ever miss the recording, miss the sessions. So let's